From the twisted realm of science and the darkest pits of reason comes chilling tales of godlessness. Bear witness to the unfathomable terror that is the Good Atheist. Welcome to the show, puny humans. My name is Glokan.
And I am Loplos.
We have captured your pitiful Jacob and Ryan human beings, and we have decided to take over your show.
So, what do we have on the Good Atheist this week?
What we have is more hilarious stories of naked apes running around worshipping rocks, pieces of wood, and strange diagrams in tree stumps.
Oh, I especially love it when they take two pieces of wood and put them together like a cross and say it represents Jesus Christ.
We have many cross beams in our culture, but none are worshipped.
Welcome to the Good Atheist bonus show for this August 25th, 2009. My name is Jacob Forte.
And I'm Ryan Harkness.
All right, how do you like that with the date thing?
I like it. It kind of feels like we're preparing these things for a time capsule. Like it matters what we're saying. Like 50 years in the road, some mysterious alien beings might listen to our radio. Right, you know, something like that.
I think I'm hoping that what will happen is that they'll listen in a long and sort of in the distant future when human races annihilated one another, and basically all that's left are copies of our information and so on and so forth. Our podcast will last forever, and because our show is so good and hilarious, they'll decide to resurrect us, or at least resurrect personas that are kind of like us, so they're just approximations.
Oh, the irony of us getting resurrected would just be delicious, because we didn't believe in Jesus.
It was science that resurrected us.
That's like a karmic brownie from some kind of strange omnipotent
do you think
deity.
Do you think that our future made-up selves are going to even understand that irony?
Oh, I'm sure they'll be retarded. They'll do it wrong. If there's one thing... we just watched a show on science, a science show, BBC Horizon. One thing I've learned from watching this show, this Horizon show, is that even scientists don't know what they're doing, and they fuck up a lot. And
they're idiots, just like normal human beings.
Yeah, if they were to bring us back, we would end up being even more retarded than we are now.
Well, look, the whole
and they would just think it's right because they just listen to the show. I mean, God, how many dumb things have I said? They're like, "Are you right, Ryan?" And I'd be like, "Durr," and they would say, "We got it. We got it. We hit that. We hit that right on the head."
I would actually argue that what the show basically taught me. Well, I already knew this, but the Horizon show, the fucking documentary you were just talking about, you idiot. Mm-hmm. Anyways, the one thing that I had learned from the show was the fact that the scientific method is designed to save scientists from themselves. You know, in a nutshell, basically they wanted to test the principle of homeopathy. So Horizon was brilliant. What they decided to do was, let's take up Randy's challenge. Try to prove that homeopathy is right and make $1 million. Hell, that's a fucking great idea, right? You're saying, well, if it proves it, then we made $1 million and it's awesome. And if it's disproven, case motherfucking closed. Let's get this shit done.
Yeah, it was basically an awesome episode of Mythbusters where the science didn't suck dick. Because that's always been the thing that drives me nuts about Mythbusters, is that their experiments suck. They really do fucking suck. And at the end, everyone's saying, well, it gets people interested.
They don't suck. They're just really raw, man. They're raw. There's something you would expect if you just sat down and a bunch of people had decided, all right, what can we do that will be somewhat scientific?
I know, but it's sloppy science, and that's all well and good. But you saw from this episode all of these people that weren't even trying, that were doing their fucking best. And I will say that the Mythbusters guy try hard enough that I don't really care, but I just think it carries over to this idea that close enough is good enough with science. And then the matter of fact is, if you do not boil everything down to its bare nuts and bolts of it all, separate it all, and double blind it so that the scientists don't even know what they're looking at, it will affect the results.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not sexy. Did you not learn one lesson from that whole fucking documentary? Is the fact that science, for the most part, is tedious. Okay? Yep. It is tedium. Somebody would say, like, hey, Jacob, you always talk about science. Why don't you become a scientist? Because I'm like, It's really tedious, man.
It's not
so fucking tedious.
It's not where the hotness is.
No, it's not me, dog. I'd just rather sort of like, be on the outside hollering, yo, woo, science. Why not, man? It sure beats going over to a sports team and going, local sports team, woo. Fuck that shit.
I don't know. If you ask me, if you wanted to get all the chicks, you'd get into homeopathy itself because, hey, it's unfair to say if chicks will fall for homeopathy, they'll fall for you because, well, number one, they have taste, but number two,
but you are not as hyped up as homeopathy, so that you can easily fall for something others fall for. I think that's just the basic gist of it. If you were the ugliest motherfucker, but you for some reason had dated every girl in your high school, girls would still be dating you because you have a reputation of dating everybody. So it's always those self-fulfilling prophecies that are pretty awesome. You just need to establish a reputation, and then you will benefit from that reputation.
Yeah,
trust me, your ancestors realized that long ago, and you guarded your fucking reputation with your life, and you were primarily concerned with your reputation.
Well, I mean, it all depends on what kind of reputation you want to have. I mean, the same thing goes for, say, dating the legitimate nice girls as it does having sex with all the slutty chicks. And trust me on that. I have a couple of friends. The one who got laid the most was the guy whose nickname was Porn Star Rob.
Yeah, if you want a trick out there, boys, name yourself something ridiculous. Well, that just sort of gives the impression that you're a total porn star.
Well, my little Mythbusters experiment that I always kind of thought was that I was trying to figure out what the deal was, and my understanding was that I figured out was that Porn Star Rob will sleep with anybody, and therefore nobody worries about asking Porn Star Rob if he wants to have sex. I, on the other hand, am extremely picky, and nobody wants to worry about whether or not some just miscellaneous dude like me is going to shoot them down or not, and that is why people like you and I get less sex than Porn Star Rob.
He's willing to slum it. I'm not. I've never been able to slum it. You know me. I can understand people who just don't care, but I hate stupidity. I just can't sleep with anybody that's stupid. The next day I would feel like, I don't know, terrible.
I've slept with stupid chicks before. It's okay. It's not a big deal. If they're nice, it's fine.
Yeah, no, but I think it's my own self-image, I have a particular delusion I'd like to stick to. The delusion is, you're awesome, and when I do that,
the delusion
takes the sheen off of me. You know what I mean? I look like a busted old piece of shit.
Is it the delusion of, I'm better than that?
No, it's the delusion that I'm better than you. Or at least other people that I know. I mean, everybody feels that way secretly about themselves. They'll figure, well, secretly I'm better than everyone else, and that's just fine. And you need to believe that, I think, to some degree. Not because it's true, but because it's a very healthy way to think. And I know that doesn't make any sense to people, but you do have to have a bit of an inflated ego. You're the only person you got, okay? You better love yourself, God damn it. You're the only person you're ever going to be stuck with forever. Mm-hmm. So try to enjoy the ride, Try self-confidence. It's a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing. I like it.
Absolutely.
Now, okay, I want to go back to and talk about homeopathy. The way that they framed it, I want to steal it and say it on the show because I think it's brilliant, is that when they were talking about the degree of dilution and they were trying to give it a context, all right, and that for instance, the way that it's marked is with there's like a 30, they'll sometimes put an X next to it. That's how many times it's been diluted. And some people tend to think, oh, that just means that they're 1 part in 30 million or something like that. But they don't really fully realize that that's actually that's an exponent. Okay, that 30. The 30 is an exponent. So
to the power
of 30, and that's one of their weaker ones.
To the power of to the divisive
No.
power.
It's 10 to the power of 30. So that means 10 with 30 zeros at the end of it. Now that is so many molecules that you couldn't actually have enough water to make it. But, I guess they feel confidently that it works. And the whole funny thing about homeopathy is because when you use levels of dilution that high, you are almost guaranteed statistically to not have any parts of that in the medicine. It would actually be... You would be surprised if you found some of that medicine. You'd be like, was this contaminated?
On a molecular level, there is no more of the original substance even there. It's completely gone.
So basically what they do, too, depending on what you have, I mean, most of the time they just sell you the liquid. Sometimes they'll give you a pill, which is basically they'll just put drops of water on wax, and you're supposed to eat that. I mean, you pay a lot for wax, trust me.
Yeah, I used to actually have, my mom had a whole cupboard full of them, and they were called tissue salts. and she would give me all sorts of weird varieties for all sorts of different things, and they never did anything, and they tasted kind of gross, and it was just...
The best one, my favorite, has to be Head On. You ever fucking hear of Head On?
No.
Head On's one of these, it looks like one of those glue tubes. You know, like those old school white glue
is
tubes?
This that Indian arthritis thing?
No. Like it's for headaches. Oh. Basically, you put it out of a tube like a lipstick thing, and you just put it right on your forehead. You put it on your head. It's a Head-On homeopathic care. Fucking shit you not.
I can understand that maybe somehow scientifically that could work, but it is just deliciously absurd, and I love it regardless.
And their commercials are so, like, this is why I'm surprised you don't know, because their commercials are so popular pretty much in the States. So all of you guys that don't live in the U.S., you're going to have to go on YouTube and find some commercials for Head On. I'll try to look.
Put some up on the Good Atheist site.
I said I'll try, but I'm not going to fucking promise nothing. Nothing will be promised, because I don't know if they're really prevalent, but I'm going to try to show them, or if I can't, you go look at them. But yes, that medicine exists, and they got this amazing throbbing little thing. It looked like the commercials for Advil in the 90s. Do you remember those, where everything was kind of like on a green grid,
and the brain had these like red danger points on it, where it was like
whoa. Are you suffering from
migraine missile? It was
like, I really do feel like there's a throbbing red mass in my head.
Yeah,
I'm telling you what, if you suffered from that, consult a mortician.
Oh man, yesterday I had a headache, and it did feel like I had one of those throbbing red things on my brain grid.
Well, didn't you drink and have a hangover from Sunday, and then we went to the gym to train as well the day after your hangover, or the day of your hangover?
Yeah, during the
why
gym.
Why did I have a headache, Jacob?
Yeah, no, I know why. I'm just saying that I did have. That's all. I wasn't complaining.
I
was complaining, but I was just expressing myself. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet now.
Please don't do that anymore. You know, there's something I wanted to bring up. I actually. I wanted to talk about kamikazes, but I actually think we're going to talk about that next radio show, because it really deserves its own show on suicide bombing specifically, because it's a fascinating subject, and you know, I'm not quite done delving into it, so hopefully we're going to do that Friday.
Okay.
Or at least, very least, at the next bonus show. But there is one thing I do want to talk about.
Well, I mean, before we move on from the homeopathy thing, I'd like to. Can I say a couple things about it?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
We can edit you out later.
Perfect. The most interesting thing that I found about homeopathy was the discussion of the memory of water, because that was the whole question mark. Now, homeopathy on its face is an idiotic concept, because it comes from the idea that you dilute something down and it gets more powerful. And the other thing is that whatever you're having a problem with, just take some of that in diluted forms. It'll fix you, right?
Right. That's pretty much. Yeah.
But the interesting scientific discussion boiled down to whether or not water had a memory. Basically, they diluted a crap load. They diluted something down to the point where no more molecules should have been there, yet they were saying scientifically this is still causing an effect.
Right, and there was like this very famous French scientist who was basically put his name behind it. And he was like, this had an effect. And it wasn't something that he was originally looking for. And, you know, you figure, well, this is a serious scientist, and he's got to be looking at it. There's got to be something there, so on and so forth. You know, it's a classic trap that we fall for normally when we talk about who's doing science. And science is somewhat of a mysterious process to us. We assume that there's a bunch of computers involved, crazy CSI, like, you know, zoom-ins and stuff like that. But really, a lot of the times it's just one of those little clicker thingies that takes, you know, a measured amount of liquid, put in a petri dish or put in a tube that's shaken, or done all this stuff, and you're just like, this is science? And you're like, yeah, it's still pretty fucking basic.
Yep, science is a whole bunch of interns looking at a microscope with a little clicker thing, counting cellular reactions. And it's very well and cool and everything like that, but I mean, what we just saw is that even the smallest of fuck-ups, even the smallest of environmental...
Or just the mere fact that you will usually try to find what you're looking for, that's the real problem. And that's the issue in science that they're always talking about. What do you do? Human beings are, you know, their brain lies to them. Whenever they're looking for something, they're bound to skew results unknowingly, even though they're trying to be objective. And that's why the whole double-blind test, like anytime you design your experiment around the double-blind, you can at least have some hope that you're going to eliminate that, where you're just saying, I need to take me out of the equation. That's the most important thing about science, taking you out of it. Because with you, it can't work out. The observer is the problem. I mean, I think it's funny that it's the same way in quantum mechanics, where basically as you observe something, you inherently change it merely by the fact that you observe it. And there are ways for you to basically try to be untangled, if you will, from that phenomenon, and usually that's the double-blind test. I don't know if that double-blind can work for, subatomic particles, but there is an interesting study at McGill taking place where they're trying to find out if they're able to only partially know where the molecule is without necessarily affecting not molecule, but the electron is in terms of a spin.
I have no idea.
You know what I'm talking about?
This is over my head. You're getting too smart for me. Dumb it down. Intelligence.
All right. When you look at an atom,
Where's your British accent?
Let's say you have a hydrogen atom. All right.
What's a hydrogen atom? I'm not.
Say you have a hydrogen atom. Basically, it's impossible for you to know the location or the spin of an electron without actually influencing where it is. The mere act of measuring it, for instance, it's a simple process. If you shoot, say, a photon at it to just even look at it, basically the photon will change the position and give it because until it's known, the position of the electron is considered to be a probability, just a chance field, if you want. It doesn't have a physical location. It has all of them and none of them at the same time. It could be anywhere at any time. But when you observe it, you give it a position.
Is this a Schrodinger's cat type thing?
Yes, exactly. That's what that is about. Okay, so you did know. Ha!
Hey, you know what?
Anyways, I was saying that there was a study in McGill that was looking into, well, can you maybe sort of bring yourself out of that entanglement, do it only partially, and then sort of like take yourself out, before you actually dictate where it is. So you have a partial understanding of where it was. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't really fully understand it beyond that. It's not that deep of an understanding. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not a physicist, but I do like to read science magazines. So this is as far as it goes.
All right, I like that. The story ended with a real bang.
Well, science is slow, man. Science is slow. Like, you propose it, and see you in 20 years, motherfucker. See you in 20 years.
I just found the whole thing very fascinating, how they delved into the scientific method and how easy it is to mess up even something as simple as what they were doing. Because when you think about it, it's a very basic test. Then you look at some other scientific experiments or
studies.
Yeah, I read a lot of studies on mixed martial arts because I'm a mixed martial arts buff, and there was one doctor out there who tried to make the reasoning that tired people get injured more easily in sports. Women get more tired than men faster, and therefore women should not be allowed to fight in mixed martial arts. Now, obviously, you can see where all the flaws come into this.
Right. I mean, just from a logical side, you're like, A is somewhat similar to B, that is somewhat similar to C, therefore A, B, or and cannot be C, or whatever. It's just, it is a logical fallacy just from the get-go. You realize, no, this is a very slippery slope.
Yeah, but even the paperwork that he was trying to twist, you take a look at that and you realize, well, these people are basically using a whole bunch of data, information from these people, and who knows what these people are saying, and the body isn't even that big. You're like, wow, a lot of these studies are pretty flimsy and these are studies that are being referenced by everybody else. These are the base work things.
Forget about just the study. Think about the spin, all right? When we were watching that documentary, one of the things that I found really funny is because in Britain, homeopathy really is a big deal. I think the producers of Horizon knew that it would have to make it look like it was a battle, a back and forth thing where you weren't really sure what the position of position they were going to take. But at the same time, if you were a fan of homeopathy, you would have been attracted to it because there was always the lore we may have discovered something new. So you're gonna keep watching and you're like, yes, at the end they're gonna prove it, and right at the end, no, it's disproven. But that's just because it's being fair. It conducted the test was conclusive, there is nothing there, and that's why they had done the documentary. But the spin throughout, if you would have finished watching it at the 3/4 mark, you might have sort of questioned whether or not homeopathy was still possible. And that's the kind of spin that you see that kind of studies can take. If they don't tell you all the information, how easy is it to spin anything? It could be just as easy as pointing out the 2/3 of Horizon and then saying, like, fucking rolling the credits two-thirds of the way through, and all of a sudden you have a documentary in homeopathy. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So really, you have to examine what is that spin, and the most important thing for you to know is the conclusion of all this. It's not all the stuff leading up to it, because that is just the trials and tribulations that any idea has to go through before the truth is, discovered, and the truth doesn't always match what we would hope, because a lot of people who believe in homeopathy, they fucking hope for that shit. It's a lot of hope.
My whole thing about homeopathy now, and earlier in the show, is kind of like, well, lots of dumb people believe in homeopathy. I have an admission to make, is that I wasn't smart enough to not believe in homeopathy until before I watched this show. I didn't know enough about it and how it worked and the scientific basis for why it doesn't work until I watched that show.
Didn't we do a show before on homeopathy?
It was not. It was nowhere near as well. Maybe
I
it's
think you didn't listen to it.
I'm sitting right here, man. It's going in
you
one
don't,
ear.
You don't think about what I say. You think about what you're going to say next.
What do you
That's
say?
why sometimes That's why I can go back and listen to some of our shows, and then I'm like, I didn't even listen to what he was saying. Human beings are like that. And then I don't listen to you.
But
You know
anyways.
nothing. I hate to you. Okay, can we move on to the next topic I wanted to talk about before we went on a 10-minute tangent?
Sure. Sorry.
Okay, and now
Sorry.
we have cut out that entire conversation that Ryan started, and let's keep rolling. All right, the next topic I wanted to talk about.
You're not
something
even
that
letting me do
bugs
my
me.
own fake crying? That's harsh.
You had your crying time. What was that, like an entire 2 seconds? That's all you get.
Yeah.
2 seconds of crying.
all
You want 4? You don't get 4. Here's what I wanted to talk about. No. The thing I wanted to talk about was actually breast cancer. And I know that I'm going to probably get shit on because I'm going to say some negative things about the breast cancer awareness movement. My girlfriend was asked by a bunch of her female coworkers if she wanted to participate in like a run for breast cancer. They have this kind of stuff usually this time of year. She actually mentioned that we had an argument, well, not an argument, a discussion about a year ago concerning the very same topic because I have
Same race.
Was it the same race? It was. It was the same race because we started dating in September, and I remember that we had a conversation about it. It's the same goddamn race. She's just glad that she has, other engagements so she doesn't have to do it. But she does not want to not do it. I don't know if I used too many double negatives, but just basically because she hates the idea of running in the hot sun, and who could blame her?
Yeah.
Running sucks. However, I'm really getting sick and tired of all of these, breast cancer awareness marathons and, walks and Honey Nut Cheerios, special little ribbons, and every other thing that goes towards creating awareness for this disease because you know what? We are now aware. Okay, we get it. We fucking get it.
We get it very well, very much.
And
very much.
but you know what? Here's the problem. We actually don't get it. The truth of the matter is that most people actually have a really distorted view of breast cancer. They think, oh my God, breast cancer is killing all these young women and so on and so forth. Look, the biggest risk factors for women is about 60 years of age is when breast cancer normally starts being a concern, from 50 to 60 and 70 and 80. And yeah, as you age, your chances of getting cancer are 1 in 2. But that's just because cancer is a disease of aging. It really is. Cancer gets you because your cells get damaged as they try to reproduce or replicate themselves, and errors happen when you're copying something, and boom, you get cancer. I mean, it's just, think about it. Every time your cells are replicating, it is like a dice roll, right? Something does go wrong because it doesn't do it perfectly every time. And once in a while, you fucking roll the wrong dice, and boom, you get goddamn cancer.
Wasn't the deal with cancer that it's basically cells that are replicating too much, or what? Sorry,
It depends. It really depends on the type of cancer. Basically, there are some cells that essentially, as far as I understand, are like in benign tumors, where the cells will continue to replicate themselves without ever really terminating, but it doesn't reach anything more than a specific mass. And I think I used to have something on my foot that was like that, and even the doctors said like it'll go away, and it did go away. I mean, you're still you're very young. Your body's immune system usually attacks these motherfuckers, and no big deal. And most types of cancers or even cancerous cells get taken care of. It's just, again, it's like a bad roll of the dice. But when you play the game of life, man, you rolled a lot of dice. You rolled a lot of dice. Like, I think your heart will beat like something like fucking a couple 100 billion times in your life. But it will have there's a set number, man. There's a fucking set number, and then you're dead. But the problem really comes from the fact that the perception of breast cancer is wrong. It is wrong. People think that it's a disease that is affecting young women. It is not. I mean, sure, there will be some young women that are, and they're terrible tragedies. Okay, fine. There are other concerns. Like, you want to know what the real concern is for women right now? The number one killer of women? It's heart disease. Okay? It is insane how many women will... It's like the number one killer of them. It ravages them And meanwhile, that nobody talks about it. I mean, Jeff's mom died of a heart attack. My dad's girlfriend has a weak heart. She's already had surgery for it. She's, if there's a way that she's going to go, it's going to be her heart. It happens for women a lot. It is a serious problem, but it's not a sexy problem. It's not a feminine problem.
It's not breasts.
It's not breasts. Breasts have an appeal. They're sexy. They're feminine. They're women. They're pink. Well, the nipples can be sometimes pink, but that's their color scheme. It's girly, a heart disease thing. I mean, pink's already taken. Pink's the fucking girl cancer. You think breast cancer. I think to some degree too, because it is such a disease that is women only. Well, even then, men can get breast cancer. That's got to be embarrassing. Where's the march for those fucking bastards? But anyways, since it is sort of like a girl thing, I think it really kind of intertwined with feminism to some degree, or at least third or fourth wave feminism. I don't even know what wave we're at now. Do you remember?
I'm not sure at all. I'm not sure at all.
Anyways, I'm just saying, ladies, it is really time you drop that fucking... That you don't have to drop it completely. I mean, yeah, it needs funding. People need help. There's most of the money that you raise goes towards doesn't go to research. They'd have enough money on research. They can't use any more. So usually it goes towards other things. Most of it to raise more awareness of the things that they're doing to try to raise awareness. Okay, that's the honest truth. Administrative costs of these types of things are ginormous, and since companies are using these types of events as sort of tax-deductible shit, they're paying less taxes, and therefore tax money isn't going towards infrastructures or other services. They're going into the whatever administrative costs went into promoting the affair. So for a company, it's perfect. Makes them look great. Makes them look like they care. And at the end, they're not even they're going to pay the same amount of taxes, which is hopefully none. At least that's what not hopefully for in their eyes, not my eyes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean. There are lots of other diseases that people need to talk about. My mom has a disease called scleroderma, and most people don't know about that disease. It's a hardening of the of your organs, and it's very deadly for a lot of people. But people don't care. It's not a sexy disease.
Here's the whole thing. There's a whole bunch of pet diseases that could be turned into these
next
big deals.
Breast cancer.
Exactly. I don't mind. I'm actually very happy with the way the whole breast cancer thing turned out, because a while ago awareness needed to be raised. It was raised.
And it's good. I mean, I don't criticize the work that's already been put in. I'm just saying there doesn't need to be any more work put in there. It's done. You guys did what you had to do. Now there's other fucking types of cancer that needs attention. If you want to have actually a sex, well, it's actually the opposite of sexy, depending on what your tastes are. But one of the big problems that people have are, colon cancer, or it's time to look at the butt now. It's time to look at the butt. The breasts have been seen, but it really is time to demystify the anus.
Yeah, I actually had a colon cancer scare. Let me tell you what, I would let them take my breasts. over having
cancer.
A
fucking or having a colostomy bag or that kind of stuff. Just in terms of the diseases like bowel disease and all this other kind of stuff, they're on the rise. I mean, I have two family members that have one has Crohn's and the other has colitis, I believe it's called. Anyways, they're two diseases that affect your intestinal tract, making it difficult for you to be able to eat certain foods. Affecting your health. You can even die from them. My sister almost croaked because her whole entire system shut down. They had to give her this experimental drug called Remicade. It was the Remicade at the time cost $5,000 a shot, and she needed like 10 of them. Luckily, she had insurance.
Oh, is she in the States?
No, she had private insurance through a school because. The thing is, your health care won't cover medication for the most part. It only covers a certain amount. And for the most part, our medication is the cheapest in the world, and that's not a problem. But new and experimental drugs, if you don't have your own private insurance towards that, you'll have to pay. And, she wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Man, she's really lucky they didn't decide to say, we're not paying for this experiment.
Because you had the pre-existing condition.
Or
could you imagine
because not only was it possibly pre-existing, but it was also an experimental drug.
But, I mean, even her right now, she has problems getting all kinds of, insurances and stuff like that. I mean, it's a serious problem. So it's not just in the States that they have bullshit insurance companies that refuse people for pre-existing conditions. It happens everywhere where there is a mix of private and public. And for the most part in Canada, 90% of all our fucking healthcare is handled by private institutions that are mandated and ruled by the government in terms of the prices they can set and so on and so forth. Only 10% of it is government, and that's usually the big hospitals. So private clinics and everything else like that, they are private clinics. They are run by
private individuals who just have to follow all those guidelines.
Exactly. So, you're a doctor in Canada, and you're really not going to make as much as a doctor in the States, which is why we don't have as many doctors.
Yeah, which is why I haven't been able to get a family practitioner, basically, a.k.a. the person who does all of the dirty work that people only take care of in the emergency room or at the big hospital if you fucking go there every day and complain to them until someone sees you.
Well, listen, I'm gonna just say something that might shock people. Maybe. But look, I love Americans. I love you guys. But the honest truth is you fucked our healthcare system. Okay? You really did. Because your system is basically built on greed. And yes, we did lose our best people to greed. What a fucking surprise. They ate your shit up. Your capitalistic fucking attitudes that doctors should be able to charge unlimited amount of monies kind of affected people. They heard the call. They had spent, got it indebted $150,000 and then all of a sudden realized that it would take 10 years to pay off that debt, or 2 years working in the States and decided to leave. Meanwhile, us, who paid for most of that through our taxes, lose these goddamn people to you. So if you were wondering why you thought you had the best health care, you stole not only all our doctors, but you left us in shambles as we could not compete with basic greed. Okay? Now, can you get your shit together so we can have our doctors back? Very much appreciated. We'd love it. It's like, we need people to stay here. We need to have health care, and you guys need to stop offering this insane incentive for people to make money on health. It's not an industry that should ever be for profit, because in the United States alone, every fucking year, 18,000 people die because they weren't able to get some of the very basic treatments they should have because they were either denied health care or insurance, or they just basically couldn't afford it anymore because they had either sold their houses or whatever. 18,000 people a year die needlessly in the United States alone. You have the best healthcare in the world. Yay. Anyways, you know what? From that tirade, I think we should probably wrap things up.
Sure.
And we're going to catch everybody on for the Friday show. We'd like to thank all of you guys for being patrons, and I think that with shows like that, you can see why it was such a bargain. We'd like to think it's a bargain.
Yeah, for sure.
And we hope you feel that way too. All right, with that, my name is Jacob Fortan.
And I'm Ryan Harkness.
Have a good Atheist Day, everybody.